Hey yo, have you guys heard about 500 Level? They make officially licensed WWE merchandise, and I actually have been working with them on a couple of designs. A design that I worked on recently was with a girl named Caitlin, who's a big Dakota Kai fan, and we designed this new Dakota Kai shirt, which you can get exclusively now at 500 Level. Once again, officially licensed with the WWE. Really wanted a new Dakota Kai shirt. Got this one designed and made, and it's on the website now, on sale now, 500level.com. Guys, join their partnership program. You get discounts the more shirts you buy, 10%, 20%, 30%. You earn points and you get a discount. They have OG shirts, guys. I had to re-up on my NWO shirts on 500 Level, the comfortable material if you get the premium shirts, but even the non-premium is super comfortable. I got NWO shirts. I got Shawn Michaels shirts. You can find some of your favorite wrestlers on there. You can find none other than guys like Razor Ramon, the bad guy. Check out this shirt. It's a sweet, sweet shirt, everybody. 500level.com. Like I said, they have the NWO stuff. And if you're like a big NXT fan, they got shirts for all of your favorite NXT wrestlers. And if they don't, let me know, and I'll make sure we get some shirts made for your favorite NXT wrestler. I went to go support my girl, Carmen Petrovic. You guys can check out our casual conversation on my YouTube channel. You can check out mine and Carmen Petrovic's casual conversation. But 500 Level had a Carmen Petrovic shirt. I had to go support my fellow Canadian and the homie Carmen Petrovic, guys. 500level.com, guys. Check them out. Get premium, officially licensed WWE shirts that you cannot find in a WWE shop all the time. They have a huge selection on their website also for MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL. They got shirts for everything, but their wrestling selection is insane. Custom creative designs. Maybe I can work together with someone out there that is an editor that wants to put more designs on the website. Hit me up. 500level.com. Check them out and keep doing the thing. And we are back for another casual conversation with the classic guys. I'm here with AEW and Ring of Honor's very own Preston Vance. How are you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
I am good. I hope you're staying safe. You're out there in Florida. There's a lot of stuff going on over there, but I'm glad you still made it to the show.
Yeah, man. This is our second hurricane in like 2 weeks, but I live in Jacksonville Beach, so we've been lucky, man. It's looped around us both times, I think. So hopefully this time as well.
Hopefully you're lucky. Are you prepared for stuff like this?
I mean, as prepared as you can be, you know. Like, yeah. I'm originally from Michigan, so living down here, man, it's like a whole different ball game. Like, I never grew up with hurricanes, and now it's like, you know, and now I heard we have another one next week, so it's like hurricane. So I just try to, you know, there's nothing I can really do. Try to stock up on food, and that's it.
It's kind of learning as you go at this point.
Yeah.
I want to go back. I want to take it back to the beginning. First things first, what were some of your earliest memories of professional wrestling?
Oh, man. So when I really fell in love with it was WrestleMania 18 and Rock Hogan.
Yeah.
That was like, I think that was kind of the epitome of like, I saw that and was like, I want to be a pro wrestler. And then when I was 8 years old in school, they have everybody write like these essays of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I want to be a pro wrestler on TV. And my mom still has my essay in her house. And I'm probably the only kid in my class who actually is doing what they put on that paper, because everybody else was like pro baseball, pro football, pro hockey, which I played all the sports too, but I wanted to do professional wrestling, you know? So I think the earliest memory I remember is that, and my favorite group growing up was DX. So it's just cool to work with Billy Gunn now, you know?
No, that's actually awesome. That is really cool that you actually wrote that essay. You said you want to be a professional wrestler, and then all these years later, you're doing it. Did your mom believe in you when you first, or was she kind of like, oh, this is something that's not going to last that long, it's a phase, or did she know like, oh no, he really, really wants to do this?
I think as a kid, she probably thought it was a phase, and then like I said, I'm from Michigan, so I went to Central Michigan University. I graduated with a major in entrepreneurship and a minor in business management, and then my kind of through my junior year, senior year, I was looking like, you know, I didn't know like how do you get into professional wrestling. So I researched it, and I realized for, you know, every good wrestling school or training center, there's 100, you know, bad ones. then I found one in New Jersey, the Monster Factory, and I contacted Danny Cage, the owner, and he was like, "Hey, we're doing this like tryout thing in like 2 weeks, which was my last week of college." And I finished my last exam in college and packed. At that time, I drove a little black Mustang, packed it up with all my stuff, and just moved to New Jersey. And was like, I lived out of my car for 3 months. I had no money, obviously, because indie wrestling, especially as like a no name, you don't make any money. So I was like, I had enough money for groceries, and then I became a personal trainer, and I was living out of my car, and I would go in like the Snap Fitness like 2-3 in the morning to cook all my meals for the day in the bathroom, because I was like essentially homeless, and I was like, kind of embarrassed, like what the hell am I doing? But I guess it all worked out.
Yeah. There are 2 questions out of everything you just said. First thing first, was getting your degree and going to school just kind of I'm getting that done as a backup, or was that more just something like you promised maybe your parents and then to proceeding after? Like, was there a plan there? Like, did you think you were going to business and entrepreneurship?
So I grew up. My dad owned an insurance company, so I essentially went to school to take that over, and I did like my my internship with him for I wouldn't even say a week. I'd say like 3 days, and I come from a very like Midwestern small town, like work is everything type family. And I think the first time my dad ever respected me when I told him like, I don't want to take over your business. Like I'd rather do this and make no money and crash and burn than come out of college and take over this company, But I mean, I worked for him for maybe 3 days and was like, I can't do this. Like, I grew up in a small town. My graduating class was like 94 people. I grew up on a dirt road, and I knew that that wasn't for me to live like that forever. I just wanted more, and so I'd rather do this and fail than, never do it, and then you're 90 years old and you're like, man, what if I would have tried that?
I'm a big believer in that, because I always think about that. Every time I think about like, oh, what do I want to do? I'm like, what am I going to look back on and be like, I was this close, so I should have just tried, right? So I understand that completely. When you were out there in New Jersey and you were living out of your car and you were doing that stuff, what kept you motivated to stay out there instead of just coming back home?
So I do come from a very good support system where, like, when I told my dad that, as hard as he was on me growing up, he was like, okay, go for it. So was my mom. So were all my friends back home. Like, they really were like, you're going to be the first person to like get out of this town, So it was like, it almost got to a point where I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for everybody else. Like, I never had the issue where, I know a lot of people, they're like, I'm going to do this to prove you wrong. I was doing everything to prove everybody right, because like they all genuinely, truly believed in me. So it was kind of like, it wasn't easier, but it was like, it gave me motivation where like, this isn't just about me anymore.
No, 100%. And then the Monster Factory, how was that experience? How would you recommend that school to others, and how important is it to find the right school?
It was awesome, man. Danny Cage is the owner. So when I went there, we had a pretty good crop of students. I was trained by QT Marshall and Damien Priest. And then also at that school at that time, Steve Cutler was just there, Nick Camarado. So like we had a good group of Matt Riddle. So we had a good group of guys. We'd all trained together, So I came up in a very good era of the Monster Factory. QT is just like, as far as coaching goes, man, he can break stuff down to, he did it with me, and I watched him with, other newer students. And it's like, he makes stuff make sense so well. And so, he has a school now in Atlanta with Cody Rhodes, the Nightmare Factory. And I mean, the Monster Factory was great, man. Damien Priest is another. I can't give him enough credit. He was one, when he was my coach, he would tell me like because he's quite a bit older, that his time has gone, and he never like put enough effort. And he would tell me like, if you make it, that's what I care about. Like, I can live a piece in your story. And then he blew up, and couldn't happen to a better dude,
There's 2 more things I want to ask you about that. With QT Marshall, I don't think he gets enough credit for a lot of people that he has helping what he does, because people, it's that whole idea of like, people don't like his character on TV, so they don't like him, when it's like, no, he does a lot, and he's actually like a really good person. Is there a piece of advice you took from QT Marshall that stuck with you in the long run?
I'm trying to. He's so like, it's crazy that he's such a good coach, but he doesn't have that coach mentality where like he's not someone who's going to truly push you. He's someone where like if you want it, you're gonna make it happen. But he like, man, the way he makes you just feel comfortable and like I can't think of like a specific thing. He believed in me right from the get-go, which if not for him, I don't think I would be where I'm at 100%. But as far as coaches go, the one piece of advice I always think about is another one of my coaches was Ray Lloyd Glacier. And he said, it doesn't matter who you know, it matters who's willing to say they know you, which I live off of that, where it's like, you know, if you're a good person, especially in this business, which is very, you know, is rare to have no one say like anything bad about you, I think you can, you know, you'll always be there. And that's how I never understood that, I guess, until Brodie Lee passed away. And man, that's one guy you've never heard someone say anything bad about. And he played obviously a very influential part in my career in AEW.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about Brodie Lee when we get to AEW. Just got one last question about this monster factor before we get to AEW. Is you brought up Damien Priest being one of your trainers, and I actually watched something on Damien Priest not too long ago, and he kind of went through a similar journey where he left home, he found himself, he was, you know, could barely afford groceries, living out of his car. Did you guys ever talk about those similarities? Did he ever, like, was there a level of understanding there because of that?
There was. But when I started, he was already like, I want to say like 10 years in.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit different. And, you know, I came in and I've always just been someone, I mean, I've been in shape my whole life. It's like if I worked at McDonald's, I'd still look the way I do now. Like I've just always, that's been my thing. And he was never like that. So he would always tell me, man, if I was like you in that aspect, I would have already made it. But he goes, I think my time has passed. So all I want is for you to make it and me be like a piece of your story. And when he said that, I was like, man, that's crazy. And then, you know, I love that. I love how successful he is now because he's just such a good dude and like deserves the world. Him and QT both. QT was the same way, man. He's, you know, QT's also, 6 years older than me or so. And it was like he was in it for a while when I came, and they both really kind of took me under their wings and they helped me more than they'll ever know.
For sure. AEW, how'd you get in there? Look, what was the process? When did you know you're going to be part of AEW?
So, okay, I'll take it back a little bit. So in 2017, I had a tryout with WWE, and I tore my ACL 2 weeks before the tryout, and I was down. And then and then 2019 came around, March of 2019. I got offered another tryout with WWE, and I tore my ACL right before that one. So now I'm like, man, maybe this isn't for me. And then at this point, I was living in Atlanta. I was moved down to train with QT more, and he started. At that point, it was called the Power Factory, and he was the coach. You know, he was the only coach of the school, but I just liked him so much at the Monster Factory. I just wanted to keep training under him. And then at that point, I met Cody Rhodes because he was coming into school, and I heard the rumblings about AEW, and you know, I didn't know much about it, and me and Cody became friends. And so, you know, me, him, QT, we'd all hang out. We'd go to his house, and it was like I would never ask Cody. I would never talk to him about wrestling. So I think, honestly, for the longest time, I don't think he really knew if I wanted to wrestle. I think he as like a job, but I'm also not someone who's going to ask anyone for a favor. And QT told Cody that, like, yo, Vance is the kind of guy, like, if you're a janitor, he'll be your friend. Like, he's not your friend because of who you are.
Yeah.
And then AEW started in October, and then COVID hit. And then in March, QT contacted me and was like, hey, they want you to come do a dark match. And so and it was COVID, and I was in Michigan at this point, and so flights were hard to get, but I found one. I was the only person on the flight on the way down, and I get there, and I'm wrestling Darby. And Darby's awesome. I think he's a fantastic performer. So anyway, so I'm wrestling Darby, and he gave me, I mean, it was like, you know, it wasn't like a dark match. It was like a real match. And I get through the curtain, and, you know, Tony liked it and everyone liked it. And then at that point, that was like the COVID had already kind of hit, but now it's like it's fully COVID. So then we filmed like 6 weeks of TV at QT school in Georgia. And then that's where I met Brodie on like the first night there. And he walks in, which was awesome because, you know, I was always a huge fan of his prior to AEW. And he walks in and we bonded instantly. We were talking about hockey because I played hockey for 12 years. He played hockey, and we were just talking about life basically. And we really clicked. And then he asked Cody and QT like, "Hey, like, what's the deal with Vance? Does he have a contract with WWE or somewhere else? Like, what's he doing?" And they're like, "No, but you know, this company's so new. Like, we're not going to put our name on someone. God forbid it doesn't work out. Now that's on us." And then Brodie was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it." So then he went to Tony and was like, "I want this kid with me. I'll take him under my wing, you know, backstage on screen." And he truly did that. So as much credit as I give to QT and Damian and even Cody, Brodie was the one who really was like, "Sign this guy." And he had just got signed himself, so for him to come in and kind of make that demand, I was like, wow, that's awesome.
No, that you definitely were like handpicked. That's actually super cool.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the doesn't matter who you know, it's who's gonna say they know you, and that's kind of situation played out there. Being part of the Dark Order, what did it mean to be number 10? You win, and also, when did you find out you were gonna wear a mask?
So the number 10 thing came out because Brodie was like, his whole shtick was kind of, you know, it's like you're the perfect wrestler, like how you look, how you move. You were an athlete, so you're like the perfect 10 basically. And it was kind of like, you know, what other wrestling companies they do look for is like that, like the mold, you know. And it was kind of like something like almost like a dig at that. And then so I found out I was going to wear a mask the day I wore, like the first time I ever wore a mask. That's when I found out. And I was kind of, I don't want to say mad, but I remember talking to QT and I was like, man, like I've never wore a mask in my life, you know? And I don't think I'm like an ugly guy. So I'm like, what's going on? But at that point I was like so excited to just like have an opportunity and get a contract. And at that point I would have done anything. And then I kind of grew into it and it became kind of like a cool, like on Twitter, I'd have the fans, you know, send me fan art and like, this is what your next gear should look like. And also all the gear I had as 10 were all created by fans.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Because I'm not a big superhero comic book guy. And I know most wrestling people are. So they would come up with the coolest designs that I could never think of, you know? So the whole 10 character was totally out of the realm of something I ever thought that I would do. But I'm so glad that I did do it because it was like, you know, and it helped me almost like relearn how to. I was so stuck on doing just like wrestling that like I did on the indies to now you got to do this. So it was like a really awesome challenge.
Yeah, so like I was gonna ask you, what was the biggest challenge of wearing a mask? Because I've always heard like a big part of professional wrestling is like showing your facial expressions and being able to sell with your face. But now you're wearing a mask. Like, was that something different for you?
Yeah, so you have to use it's all body language, which is great because now it's like, you know, now I'm back out of the mask, so it's so much easier now because I had that kind of, you know, hurdle to cross when I wore the mask. And then the other thing too is the breathing in it, man, was brutal.
I bet it also
people who wear a mask, man, I give them credit because like that's hard and but too, it's like you don't have that. You can tell so much of a story by your facial expressions, and then to have that taken away, it's like, and then I had it taken away, you know, not on the indies. It's like, hey, we're gonna take this portion of wrestling that you know, we're gonna take it away and throw you on TV. So it's like, oh man, that's a challenge. But like I loved being part of the Dark Order, and you know, I'm forever thankful that Brodie saw something in me to you know, put a stamp of approval on me.
No, for sure. Yeah, and the temperature that I heard that it could get at Daly's place sometimes, that mask must have been really warm inside there. And then also the fact that it maybe made you like more of a well-rounded wrestler now, because now it's like, I can tell stories with my facial expressions. I also know how to do with my body language now too. And you only got that opportunity because you were put in the situation you were in. So it's actually super cool. Really quickly, one last thing about Brodie Lee. Was there anything he told you that stuck with you that you're kind of like, oh, that was like really good advice. I'm glad I took this thing that I learned from Brodie Lee.
Yeah. So when I signed my contract, and like I said, he put his stamp of approval on me. And there's like this. I remember I was reading this article or rumor going around that I was his nephew or cousin, and it's like I didn't know him at all before we met. And then, so when I got signed, I tore my bicep 3 days after I signed my contract, and I was like, "Holy like I'm screwed," And I remember crying. I called QT. Cody, I was texting Brodie, like, I'm so sorry, man. Like, I messed up. I tore my bicep. Like, you put your sample. Like, I was so terrified to see him at the taping that week. And then I saw him, like, at Daly's place, like, in, like, the hallway. And, I mean, I was, like, in the verge of tears. And he came up, he gave me a hug. He's like, hey, man, you're young, you're jacked, you're good looking. He goes, you're going to be fine. And then that night I walked out with him. He gave me his robe, which I still have in my place frame. He gave me his robe, and he said, and it had to be altered, because he's like 6'7". And so he gave me his robe, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. He said, here, take this to like cover your bad wing, is what he'd say. But going back to how hot it was at Daly's place, so after the first few weeks, I'm like, I'm out there standing on stage, I mean, pouring sweat. So this robe is made of straight like burlap sack. So then I get to the back, and he goes, I know you like the jacket so much, but that whole thing was a rip. I was like, but dude, it's just like that type of stuff. He kept it so, because when you see him, man, he's so intimidating. But then when you get to know him, it's just like when they say like a smile can light up the room, or like a laugh, my God, like that's the epitome. Like his laugh would light up a room, man.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about him. I met him one time, and like you said, like I didn't really want to bother him because I was like, oh, like whatever. But then like I nodded, and he kind of like nodded and smiled. I'm like, oh, he seems like a great guy, but
very good,
definitely intimidating at first. And I've heard nothing but great things about him. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy, the Wrestling Classic here, guys. I want to let you guys know that there's a limited edition Wrestling Classic tee. I'm wearing it right now, but I got to show you the back because it's in collaboration with none other than HQ Clothing, guys. It says Conquered in the back because that's what we do. We're out here conquering it every day, guys. Wear this shirt, remember to conquer it. Do the thing, keep doing the thing. HQ Clothing, Headquarters Clothing, limited edition Wrestling Classic shirts. There's only like 70 left. There's only 100 printed. Make sure you get them before they're gone. I truly, truly, truly appreciate your support. Conquer it. Get it now. Put the link in the description below. Before I move on to what you finally got to become Preston Vance and you took the mask off, I have to ask you, just the Canadian in me, and it just started up again. Like, what is your favorite hockey team? Is it Detroit?
Oh, Detroit Red Wings.
Oh, for sure. Okay. I mean, you guys had like a really good stretch there in those years of Eisenman and Fedorov.
So when I was a kid, that was the dynasty, dude.
I know, 100%. That's what I was gonna say.
With Eiserman and McCarty and dude, oh man.
It was like the most before they started the cap on like the budget that they're allowed to use for players. I remember Detroit was one of those teams that was, there was a handful of teams that were stacked, and Detroit was one of them. They had everybody, and it was great. Man, I mean that's great because I live in Vancouver and it's not like that over here so much.
Right.
But that's cool to know. It's cool to know. Preston Vance, you got to take the mask off. You separated from the Dark Order, and you got to finally be Preston Vance. How did that come about, and what was the biggest thing you thought was going to be a challenge there?
The biggest challenge was like not relearning, but kind of like relearning, like the facial expressions, and I just got so used to being that kind of like the heater, But man, I wanted to take it off for so long, and it came about honestly. Andrade was the one who was like, hey, I want him with my group or whatever. And yeah, I think the biggest challenge was how are these people going to react to me doing it? And like the whole turn that night was, I mean, it was awesome. It went as good as it could have gone. So I think that was just like, it was like having to almost like re-debuting in AEW. which was scary, but also it was another like fun challenge. Like, you know, how many people get to do that, like to kind of re-debut. So I was like, it was scary, but I was also like very grateful, because some people, you know, they start with the company and then they're just like, you're this, or you're this is you forever. And it's like, with me, it's like totally different wavelengths. So I loved it.
And I think that's the beauty of the mask, because if you're a mask wrestler, you get that opportunity, because sometimes you get stuck with, hey, this is who you are, this is your character, and if this fails, we don't know what we're going to do with you, because now everyone already kind of sees you as this person. Like, you might have to like go away for a bit and come back or something. Whereas if you just take off a mask, you're a whole new person that they didn't know and they got to see. And that heel turn was great. Like, just the violence of it all too. And, you know, you're part of the Dark Order, and it was a group that, you know, as time went on, became a little bit more fun and comedic, and like everybody loved them. And like, there was like, you know, they've been here since day one, and, you know, John Silver and everybody, and they're just, it was like this group that everybody loved. So for you to turn the way you turned, that was like instant heat. And I thought it went really well as well. How did you enjoy being a part of the LIJ? I was gonna try to say it, but I know I was gonna butcher it, so I was just gonna say LIJ.
So LIJ is Japan. So LFI is
LFI is the It's an extension technically, though. Yeah.
I loved it, man. Roosh is awesome. We got you know, I went to Mexico with them I was there for I think 14 or 15 days. I've never been before, and it was an experience for sure. But yeah, he's awesome. Jalisco, his brother's awesome. Like I said, it was just, and that was another, like, man, they threw me in that group, and it was also kind of, you know, do this, and it was a challenge, man. I love that. Like, I love having to, like, it took me out of my comfort zone, which is great, which is always something I want and I need, you know. But they're great. I think Roosh is, I mean, crazy talented, and I think the world of that guy. But the Dark Order, I think the route, you know, is like, they are one of the few AEW, I like to call them the AEW OGs, you know, that, you know, they're still from day one. And it was that comedic, you know, route. And that's just, that's not really me. And I think that would kind of always, I think it was kind of realized and noticed, like, that wasn't like my thing. So I think the joining LFI helped me a lot, and it helped me learn a little bit of Spanish too, because I'm around those guys who speak Spanish all the time, you know. So there's a lot of upside to that for sure.
How was Mexico? Like, what was the biggest difference? Because when everyone becomes a wrestler, there's a certain places they want to wrestle. There's Japan, there's Mexico.
Yeah.
How was Mexico?
Man, it's super crowded.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like the Wild Wild West. It was an awesome experience. And the stuff we filmed there was super cool, and the stuff I'd never thought I would do. And then going to the Arena Mexico was awesome, and those fans there they're so passionate. And the one thing that I know really, like, caught my attention that was so much different, whereas, like, the commentators are talking over the arena, instead of, like, you don't just hear it at home, you hear it over everything. And so that was, like, kind of throwing me off a little bit. But Mexico was awesome, and it was, I mean, it definitely something I didn't expect. I guess I didn't know what to expect when I went there. But it was cool, and it was good being, like, with Roosh, and he's so respected in the wrestling industry, and especially in Mexico. So it was a very cool opportunity.
That's so interesting. I didn't know about the commentary playing as you're wrestling. And you can hear it. That's an interesting atmosphere to be in. I would actually maybe appreciate that actually at live shows. It kind of adds something to it there. Because if you're sitting far away, it lets you kind of know what's going on. Another thing you got to do while you're with this group that might have been a little bit newer to you was there was a lot of really cool, like, vignettes and video packages that you guys filmed to build up storylines and to build up angles, which kind of touches more on the acting side of things and the promo side of things. What did you learn doing all that, and how did you feel about part of those? Because there was pretty cool, like, visuals and videos that came out during that period.
So that was like that's like my favorite part of wrestling, is the vignette and, like, the really, like, storytelling part of it. And so we shot all the vignettes, I think, maybe except for 2 in Mexico City.
Oh wow!
So like actually, so that's why we went there, which was awesome. But so I loved that kind of stuff because it helps. Like I think back when I was a kid, what made me really drawn to be invested in a match or a wrestler was the vignettes or like the video packages. And it's like, because as a kid especially, or even just like a normal person who's never been a wrestler, they don't know what everything in there is or feels like, but everyone knows emotion, so that can bring out your emotion. And for me, and that was the other thing too, like with Dark Order, yeah, we had some vignettes and stuff, but I was wearing a mask, so it was like,
Yeah,
I just stood there. So with this, it was so much different, and was like, it was a good challenge again, to really like kind of bring that out of you. And Roosh was so good about, he's so intense, and like he really did bring like that best part of me out. But like the finished product, I loved it. It literally was like a movie, like me and Roosh would always, our jokes, we'd always look at each other and we would just yell cinema, because that's what it felt like. It was like,
no, they were like mini movies. They were like mini movie scenes that take you out of the show, and the way that it was filmed, the way that it looked, I'm like, oh, these are cool.
Yeah, so it was the finished product I thought was awesome. And like I said, to do that all actually in Mexico City was really cool, especially for me to, I've never been there. I'm not Mexican, so it's like kind of get like that street cred, like, he went there and did it. So like, I love doing that. I love working with him, and his brother both are awesome.
No, that's awesome. Who was behind filming them and stuff?
They had some one of his like film crews from Mexico City.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feeling it was some people that were different. So I'm like, this looks different than everything else. It was cool. Definitely was cinema. What do we got going on now? You're in Ring of Honor. You're doing the thing over there. What are some of your future goals?
Future goals, man. I love doing single stuff because, for example, I haven't, my entire time in AEW, I've never been, like, I've always been part of a group, which is awesome because I love being part of a group, but also to be on your own, it's scary, but it's like, it makes you want to like work more because you don't have anyone to lean on. It's just you. Where before, I had these people like, in Dark Order, I had Brodie, like, hey man, what's going on with us? Or Roosh, like, so now it's like, this is all you.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's much harder, but it makes you, it forces you to work harder. So I love it. I love doing Ring of Honor stuff. Man, I want to do every show. I want to, like, I'm not picky. Like, I want to do Ring of Honor, Collision, Dynamite, Rampage, like literally everything, man. Like, I love AEW. I think it's awesome what Tony has built. And it's so good for wrestling fans and wrestlers as well. Like, I'm very, very grateful for Tony. He's an amazing boss. So I mean, I really do like doing Ring of Honor because I never really was a Ring of Honor fan growing up because I didn't know what it was. Like, growing up in Michigan, all we had was WWE. And now when I go back and look at Ring of Honor stuff, I'm like, man, this is awesome, I would love to do something with Mark Briscoe for the ROH title.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's ROH title.
Why wouldn't you?
Mark Briscoe's the man,
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'd love to check off the bucket list. I would love to do my main goal. I've said this on every podcast for the past 3 years is TNT title, and that's simply an ode to Brodie. So I think that's number one and always will be number one to me. That's the most important title. Is just knowing how I got here was because of Brodie. So I think it'd be a cool story that kind of came full circle.
For sure. I was gonna say, like, if people want to check out Preston Vance and there's like specific matches, you've had some bangers. Like one specific with John Moxley, Stanza. But what are some matches that you would tell people, hey, go check out these matches? Like, give them like 3.
Okay.
Like, what are 3 of your favorite matches that you've had?
I think my favorite was me and Roosh versus Claudio and Moxley.
Yeah.
man, I love that match. He's another one where me and him just, man, we got chemistry. You know, he's another. He's just so good. Another one is me versus Darby for the TNT title. This was shortly after Brodie had passed, and Darby's another one. Man, we're just like, he brings out like the best in you. The third one, I would say, this one was like just more fun. Was me and Hangman versus Will Hobbs and Brian Cage.
Yeah.
And then after the match, me and Hangman were chugging beer on the stage, and I was like, "This is cool," you know. Like that's me, man. That's cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I always ask this question to wrap it up. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions after just for fun. But first, do you feel like you've made your younger self proud as of now? Like you've accomplished what you want to do when you wrote that essay, and you're working for AEW?
I do. I do think I definitely made my younger self proud, but it's one of those things, and we call it wrestler brain, where like you're never going to be fully satisfied.
Yeah.
You're always going to want more, which is a good thing, because like you never want to become complacent. But I definitely think I made my younger self proud, and you know, I'm happy. I love where I work. I love the people I work with, which is rare in any job. So yeah, I think I definitely made my 8-year-old self proud.
No, for sure. And I think like the evolution so far is still going on. Like you said, you were part of Dark Order, then you were part of LFI. Now you're finally doing this singles run. Now you can pursue that Ring of Honor world title. You can pursue the TNT title. Like, you know, it's still happening. Still, you're very young, so it's cool. We're here as of now, but there's so much more to do. Just a couple of last things, just so that people get to know you a little bit better. What would you say is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh man. So comedy movie is Tommy Boy for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'd say like actual, man, I love, this might be a hot take. I love Pain and Gain.
Okay.
With Rock and Mark Wahlberg. Yeah. And I remember watching that and they're like, "Oh, this is based on true events." I'm like, "Yeah, bullshit. It's not. It can't be that true." And then I watched the real documentary. I was like, "This was spot on," which is pretty sick. But I love that movie. I think it's awesome.
What's on your playlist? Like, if someone was to check out your playlist, like what music are we listening to? Like what genres, and maybe give us a favorite singer too.
So genre for sure. Country's my favorite. I grew up.
Okay.
Man, really small town, dirt road. I worked on a farm forever. That's just how I grew up. But favorite artist is definitely Eminem. Once again, I'm from Michigan, so if you're from Michigan, you know Eminem. He's the GOAT and always will be. So Eminem for sure, my favorite artist. That will never. No one's even in a close second. But favorite overall genre for sure, country.
Who's your favorite country artist?
Man.
It's tough because there's so many good ones from the old school. There's so many good ones coming up now. Like
I'd say my go-to, and this is so like cliche right now, but I just love all Morgan Wallen stuff. I really do.
You know when you said, "Oh, this is so cliche," in my head, I'm like, he's gonna say Morgan Wallen. He's gonna say Morgan Wallen, and then you said Morgan Wallen.
I do, but old school guys, George Strait, he's probably my favorite. He actually played here at the Jag Stadium last summer, and me and Austin went and sat in a suite together. Me and Austin Gunn. Man, we had a blast. It was awesome. That guy, you know, he's like 70 something, and he was performing till like after midnight, and he just kept saying like, "I'm still going," and he puts on a show, man.
Man, once you're a rock star, you're a rock star. This is what it is.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You know, that's awesome. And then also, just because you've always been into fitness, you've always, like you said, it's been something that you've been passionate about your entire life as well. What's your favorite cheat meal? Like, what's the stuff that is like your guilty pleasure?
Oh, pizza for sure.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite kind of pizza?
Hawaiian.
Okay. Oh, so you're a pineapple on pizza guy.
Oh, big pineapple on pizza guy.
I don't see anything wrong with it. People, that's been a debate for the past like 5 years, and I don't know why. Because I'm like, I mean, there's a lot of different things that have been put on pizzas over the year. Well, that's dope. The one thing I wanted anyone to take away from this was to get to know you a little bit better and get to know who Preston Vance is. I hope to see you more on television. Hope to see you do more.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and looking forward to see what you do next, guys. Everyone, go follow Preston Vance on social media. Check him out. Maybe you'll bump into him at a Morgan Wallen concert. He doesn't wear a mask anymore. You know what he looks like. So guys, check him out. And I hope you keep doing the thing. We'll see you all later.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.